Yes, welcome in. It's Boston has entered the chat, the show where we take your group chat and bring it right to you, live inside the Salem 5 studios. George Balekji, Kasey Hudson. We got a special show for you guys today. Breaking news, Celtics begin the rebuild and the reset to get under the second apron. Jrue Holiday now with the Portland Trail Blazers. Anthony Simons now with Boston. We have the Red Sox dropping their third in a row. What went wrong with the pitching and the base running? Plus more on the Bruins ahead of their developmental camp. All coming up right here on the show. Case, how are we doing this morning?
Pretty solid, actually.
All right. The heat's not beating you up yet?
No, it's not. It's one of those things where I'm like, oh, you guys can have summertime. And then I'm also like, wow, my body has climatized. It's too hot here. So I'm in the middle of everything.
The Florida gal is saying it's too hot in Boston. Welcome.
I am. It's officially official.
We don't have the same ocean breezes as you guys down in the Sunshine State. And now, hey, the trade deadline and the offseason heating up for the Celtics. So let's get into the news that broke late in the middle of the night, almost around midnight. This goes down. Jrue Holiday, 35-year-old Jrue Holiday, traded to the Portland Trail Blazers. And in return, the Boston Celtics getting 26-year-old guard Anthony Simons, great shooter, can attack the basket, create off the dribble. Not a good defender by any means. And 2 second-round picks in return. Most importantly for Boston, just a shift for $5 million difference in payroll, but the saving they make in tax penalties, they're saving $41 million. That's how serious the tax penalties are for the Boston Celtics. And we saw the reaction on Twitter. Wow, Celtics always cooking in the offseason. Man. And that makes sense. I mean, Brad Stevens, once again, working a perfect trade. Thank you to Jrue, an immortal Celtic. We knew it had to happen. This seems like good news to wake up to as a Celtics fan. I think that's the rational take in all of this. And then Jason, for 2 second-round picks, yeah, who does Brad Stevens have dirt on to be fleecing these trades? It's more on what Portland gets in return, but this worked out perfect for the Boston Celtics. Yeah. They have to get under the second apron. They still have $18 million more in salary and payroll to go to get under that, but it's saving $41 million in tax penalties. And in return, it's a 26-year-old Anthony Simons who averages 20 points per game, shoots almost 37% from three, can create off the dribble, can attack the basket, really good offensive piece, bad defensively, but in a reset year when we don't know if Jason Tatum is going to play for the Celtics this upcoming season, Simons is a perfect guy to split a backcourt with Derek White and play off of a Jaylen Brown as well and be hidden defensively by them too.
Yeah, well, I like this move for a number of reasons because there was some conversation around how young will the Celtics go in the absence of Jason Tatum. And on top of that, were they going to be open to needing a guard because of what they're going to potentially do in the draft, which we'll get to momentarily. But you put it perfectly. This is a Celtics team that's been known to be stout defensively, so you don't need a guy that's going to come in and be that strong of a two-way player. What you're trying to make up for right now are points. You are looking at missing out on 20-plus points with JT being out of the matchup. And then we got to see what Jaylen Brown looks like after knee surgery as a leader in that leading role. So I like the idea of getting younger here. I like the consistency on the shooting. And for anyone who hasn't seen it and didn't feel like Googling immediately what's up with this guy, go see how well he worked against the Knicks and other teams in the Eastern Conference to see how he's going to be able to bring value in that Eastern Conference competition. So there's a number of things that parallel here that say we're trending in the right direction without making too many crazy moves. We talked about it on Hold My Banner. Jrue Holiday is probably one of the 3 guys that are going to be easiest to move on from. And also, I think that this all sets us up perfectly to see how things are going to potentially be manipulated in the draft. So I hate missing news when I'm asleep, but I feel good about this one so far. It is a lot to wake up to.
We got to be in here at 6 a.m. That alarm goes off 4:30 for me when it comes to the show, having this in the morning. But you wake up to it. And as much of there is that shock that we felt with past trades for the Boston Celtics, like when Marcus Smart was dealt following them coming up short of making it back to the finals, this one was, okay, this happened already. Yeah. Because with Jrue Holiday, he's about to be 35 years old. He's on the decline offensively, but also defensively. He's not the same guy that could guard 1 through 5. Keep up with the quicker guards you see across the NBA. And again, at 35 years old and carrying that payroll, $32 million, and the second apron and the tax penalties staring the Celtics in the face, that was a first piece. And the way to look at this for Boston Celtics fans, you're not going to resolve getting under the second apron, and it's not all going to happen in one move. Like, literally, Simons comes back making $27 million a year. You're, like, scratching your head. Like, that's an astronomical number. They have to chip away at getting under the payroll. They have to chip away at getting under that second apron. Yeah. And, again, the big picture in this, $41 million in tax penalties is what they are recovering from and what they are eliminating in all this. Plus, Jrue Holiday, it's not just what he was making now, but there were 2 more years remaining, $72 million in payroll. Simons is a free agent after this season. Celtics can re-sign him, bring him back if they want. They can extend him mid-season, or they can let him walk and, again, let the financial crisis that they're in right now resolve itself. It's the small moves that are going to happen now. It's a big moves that may happen closer to the upcoming trade deadline, because the names that still go around, Kristaps Porzingis, Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, and Derek White is still a possibility to be moved. I mean, he's over 30 years old. There would have to be a Godfather-like offer is what Brad Stevens says, but those are the guys that could be next. Again, this is the small move, and you have to give it to Brad Stevens. For whatever reason, there's an affinity in Portland for Jrue Holiday, because remember, he was dumped by the Bucks, traded to Portland, but then he was brought over to Boston in a subsequent move by the Celtics to make up their core that won last year's NBA Finals. They trade him again and get 2 second-round picks in return.
Right.
Those are assets they can use to move if they want to continue to move players and bring in lower salary payrolls and continue to shed money off the books. But Brad Stevens, with his trade, again, to your point too, no Jason Tatum. He got a great scorer and a great shooter that fits Joe Mazzulla's system, but will give this team a lot, and he's still ascending. He's only 26. He's only getting better. This could be another steal, and Simons could be potentially a very good Boston Celtic for a long time. That's the big win. The small win is they're figuring out how to get the payroll in check and how to get modern with the new NBA. It's no more supermaxes and big threes. It's making it work without the tax penalties.
Well, yeah, and you mentioned like some key things there in a sense of they're making maneuvers without adding too much baggage, because with this kid being a free agent after, it's almost like a prove-it opportunity because they're doing 2 things simultaneously that are very crucial here. They're working within all of that number crunching and trying to make sure they alleviate themselves, and then we're heading into new management territory at the same time. But it's also how many big waves do we make in the absence of Jason Tatum while we figure out Jaylen Brown. So I will say this, I'm pretty sure Celtics fans are excited because for the most part, it feels like this solidifies the whole, could we potentially move on from Jaylen Brown rumors? You don't have to do that. They don't have to do too much here. This is still a pretty good roster considering. So now they're going with a more plug-and-play approach, which shows you the confidence they have in the leaders in this team. And sometimes those are the guys that surprise you the most and can push you in. I mean, how many underdogs did we talk about in this NBA season that ended up making postseason appearances and having those pull-through games or showing that they had a deeper bench? It was names that you don't really know all that well. So 26 years old, a lot of potential, a lot of guys who come out of IMG Academy as well. They tend to have a pretty big future. They build momentum very well depending on their age. So this is a guy that if he has a good prove-it year this year, that you're going to have quality money on him, but you're going to have probably his best time of his career, which lines up perfectly. So we know about the other pieces they'll potentially move on for to alleviate this cap issue. Porzingis being one of them, and the other things that they can get back. You mentioned how they can kind of use those 2 trades or those 2 draft picks, 2029 and 2030. Saying those years is awful to me.
It's assets that mean something to some of these teams for some reason, though.
It does.
And if you want to throw a lot of draft picks with the Porzingis, makes that contract easier to eat for a Brooklyn Nets-esque team. And if it gets them off the books and gets something in return, it works out for them.
Exactly. So now they're giving themselves a lot more manipulation room. But what I like about it even more is like they could package all of this for a bigger name in the midst of a bigger name, or more so try to make some movements in jumping in the NBA draft. And I'm kind of interested to see if they're going to use it as a jump, because some of the names that were discussed on Hold My Banner, your friend, John Fanta, I want to call him Fanta so bad. But John, he was excellent in terms of like some guys and small maneuvers that the Celtics can make in the draft to jump up from 28 and players that are going to be so impactful now within that 10 to 14, 15 range. So having these draft picks, still having the opportunity to move on from Porzingis, you're opening up a field of opportunities for a Celtics team that's going to make a notable move here to say we're not dead in the water just because we're probably going to try to keep JT out for the season. It's the most responsible thing to do. Yeah, we'll see what they do with his return. He could be back in 8-9 months. I am on the boat as you. Same thing of keep him out this upcoming season. This trade goes down. Phone lines are ringing. Make sure you can leave us a voicemail, 617-790-0928. We got a good one. Our guy Jack from Linfield called and left a voicemail. Check it out right here.
Hey, this is Jack from Linfield, and I'm just calling after the Jrue Holiday trade. I was wondering, is Derek White next? I really like him, and after seeing Jrue go, I don't know. So what's next for the Celtics? Is it going to be Derek White? Thanks.
Jack from Linfield, a little Mickey Mouse there.
Passionate.
And a big Derek White guy.
Passionate guy.
Big Derek White fan as well. That's the next name, but we've heard the reports. Brad Stevens does not want to move on from a Derek White. He doesn't want to move on or move a Jaylen Brown because this is still a team that understands you can get under the tax threshold and you can get under the second apron this offseason if you move a Kristaps Porzingis and really make the contract count at that point. Save more than $4 million.
Right.
Save around 10, 15, maybe 20 in the next move. But it's really difficult to maneuver altogether. Derek White will be 32, 33 when Jason Tatum's 100% back. But in the window and with his game, if he ages like he can, this is a team that'd be back to contending. And he does everything. And he's a point guard, which they need right now. Different style of game to an Anthony Simons. But again, if it's the right package, and teams do want a Derek White on their roster, I could see it happening. Jrue Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, those are the expected moves. Those are anticipated moves. Those are the moves that have to happen. Derek White, that would be a luxury move. And if he's dealt, that's when you trust the Celtics and Brad Stevens that the return they're getting is something that they just could not pass up on.
Yeah, it's got to be a heavy return. I think Jack can relax and breathe. I don't think we're moving on from Derek White because even though we talk about the fact of getting new pieces here in the mix and in the absence of Jason Tatum, I think that to a degree you're going to want to keep certain veterans in place. And yeah, a 30-year-old man is a big-time veteran in the NBA. So you're going to need the right veteran presence around you. And you're talking about a player, too, who stepped up in key moments that the Celtics needed him to. So there's a number of things that make him an asset to this team. And you don't have to move on from him to create space and money because there's other maneuvers here that can take place. So I think Derek White would be safe. But I also think that it's smart that with a lot of movement and a lot of question marks, you have to have certain leaders that remain in that locker room or else you're looking at a completely different season and potential miss of the postseason. Yeah,
this could be a team, again, in the soft rebuild, that soft reset leadership would be needed. And keep in mind, Derek White making $30 million this year. Sam Hauser, $10 million on the books. Peyton Pritchard, just $7 million, reigning sixth man of the year. If a Derek White is moved, it could be a backcourt. Peyton Pritchard and Anthony Simons. Very young, very talented, a lot of buckets between those two. We'll take a quick break on Boston's end of the chat. When we're back, we'll get into the Red Sox. Fourth straight loss, what went wrong there. But also make sure to get the latest up-to-date live Boston sports headlines, along with your daily dose of trending sports and social topics every weekday. Head to Boston's End of the Chat. Check us out on Boston's End of the Chat. Every Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 a.m. on NESN, 9 to 10 a.m. on NESN Nation. That's every Monday through Friday, and you can catch every episode on YouTube as well. Welcome back to Boston's End of the Chat inside our Salem 5 studios, live in Watertown. All right, Case, you guys, if you were up late last night watching the game in Anaheim, you caught TC and the guys holding down their thing post-game. After the Red Sox, third straight loss. 9-5, the final against the Anaheim Angels. Walker Buehler, another disappointing start. Has been struggling his last 5. The Red Sox back to 500. We saw them go from winning 4 straight series, getting their head above water, putting Rafael Devers behind them, getting back into a wild card spot, back to 500 on the season, and back to the struggles. And last night was one of those games where we saw it start. 3 runs in the first inning. Rafaela, Trevor Story, Abraham Toro, all stepping up with their bats. Roman Anthony, too. But then Walker Buehler in the first. A home run, walked 2 batters after that, a single. Hit 2 batters, walked 2 more, led to a 5-3 deficit. Red Sox never recovered. It was more than pitching, but it all started there.
Yeah, kind of a tough mental hurdle for Buehler right now because, for one, before this team even headed out to the West Coast, it was slightly discussed and kind of already noted that his road record wasn't too appealing, for one, and for two, how is that going to change out west? West Coast tours are some of the hardest ones for teams to be successful on, and it's very taxing as well. So to know that he's kind of already mentally approaching things, knowing that things have to change, and then you come out like this, it's going to be tough for one. There were questions to Alex Cora whether or not, this is a mechanical situation at this point, and I think that those are 2 degrees of separation. I think whatever mental hurdles that he's trying to leap, knowing that he needs to do better, could be impacting him mechanically, but this team has to be able to figure out what's going to happen with the bullpen. They already know that it's thin. Cora addressed the fact that it's thin, so they're working with really tight boundaries at the moment. But it's not just the pitching situation on on this one. I think you mentioned it. It's the way that things are playing out when it comes to base running and everything else. So it's just like once they get one thing kind of finding a rhythm and getting into play here, something else kind of starts to fall apart.
Yeah, I mean, it was a base running later on in the game. Jaren Duran on second, Abraham Toro rips a hit, goes at the shortstop, and Duran's slow to get off the bag. It was the indecisiveness that led to him being in a pickle, and then Abraham Toro being picked off at second, and all of a sudden, instead of having a runner on first or second, at best on second with one out, it's 2 outs and no one on the base path. And this is a team, again, went up 3 in the top of the first, down 5-3 as the first inning was done. Walker Buehler struggling, and this has been the case for him his last 5 starts. An ERA above 10, allowing 26 earned runs in just 22 innings pitched, has allowed 7 home runs. First pitch of the game, home run he let up. And watching that, you go, oh man. It was the look in his eyes. It's what he did the 4 starts before then where you go, Buehler doesn't have it again. All the walks in that first inning, leading to runs with the bases juiced, hitting batters, walking batters, just not having his stuff. Did recover, did retire 9 of the next 13 hitters. But this is a team, again, it's all about the margins with them. And when the offense isn't where it needs to be, when the starting pitching and the bullpen isn't consistent as they have to be outside of a Garrett Crochet and what's been a Lucas Giolito and a Aroldis Chapman, when those parts of the game aren't consistent for them, they can't afford these slow starts, these first inning blunders. They can't afford those mistakes and those mental miscues on the base path. And that's leading to Alex Cora, another ejection for him. He's putting it all out there to fire up the guys and get them to lock in. It's a matter of when you prepare, when you do all the coaching, when you have the approaches, these major leaguers are on the field, they need to get the job done. And it has not been the case. This is a team that's been up and down. And the ups have been great, been consistent baseball. When you look at the Mariners series, when you look at what they did after that, before getting to the Giants, clean baseball defensively. Another error, as we saw, whether it's Connor Wong, you could say an error on the base path as well, making mistakes all over. The Red Sox cannot afford to do that.
No, and it almost hurts worse that it's coming down to mistakes versus a lack of talent. You know what I mean? Like at some point you almost want to be like, I just don't trust the guy. He needs more time to develop. And some people might feel that way by how young this roster has gotten over the past 2 months, but that's not the case. It's a lot of mental working against, and I spoke to this beforehand. It seems like situational baseball is kind of not working favorably for them when it comes to making mature, timely, decisive decisions, as you just so put it. So they have to find a better way to string that together, and it doesn't just come down to those timely strikeouts, which yes, you need to see out of a Buehler. That's why we get so excited when we know it's Crochet Day. But as a whole, the mental approach here, something has to shake up. And I wonder if some of it is because a lot of these players are being requested to, I don't know, spread themselves a little thin. You've got players that want to do anything that it takes for this Red Sox team, and that's the mentality that you want for these players across the board. But I think it's working against finding the identity, and you can't be at the halfway point nearly of the season still talking about identity.
Yeah, and that's where, what is the identity of the team? Because it's Walker Buehler with another bad start. Then it's Garrett Crochet in relief, allowing 4 earned runs as well. So, and those are guys with Walker Buehler, 1 year, $21 million on the books, was a good signing. Still believe it can be, but this is a guy that has to figure his stuff out. And that if that's being sent down to AAA, reassessing himself, getting his feet back under him, and then coming up and being consistent, that's a move the Red Sox will have to do. We saw it with Hunter Dobbins. They had to put him on the IL. With Richard Fitz as well. He's coming up, making a start. We'll see how he recovers. It has to be more than a Crochet every 4 games, every 4 or 5 games or so, or starts, coming in and being the stopper. You need more than that. They have it with Lucas Giolito. They have it with Brian Bayo. But this team isn't talented enough and isn't executing clean enough to be able to afford the shortcomings with starting pitching, with defense, with base running. They just cannot afford any of this, and it's the same thing time and time again. Crochet will be on the bump tonight. Awesome. He's the stopper. Can the bullpen get it done? Can the lineup support him with runs? And can they be smart on the base path as well? When it's a miscues of a Walker Buehler, that's a World Series winning pitcher. That's a vet. You expect him to be settled in mentally and physically, know what he's doing. With Jaren Duran, that's a guy that's so dangerous on the base paths, is that threat. It's who you want to be the leadoff hitter, but he's making mistakes in the field defensively as an outfielder. On the base path as a base runner, it can't happen in those spots. And it's also with the Trevor Story, found his bat in June, but it's for naught when you're losing games like this. He's stepping up with home runs. He's stepping up with timely RBIs. And it's for naught because the Red Sox keep losing games. And just as they were 2 games above 500, they're back to it 40-40 on the season.
Yeah, the dance to and from 500 is very difficult, but
Yeah.
I think at this point everyone was like, let's just lock in wild card and see what happens from there. And there's going to be a few players that they get back injury-wise that are going to make an impact in the right time. It's almost kind of like this hold on and seeing what the approach to the trade deadline brings them to kind of give them the depth that they're looking for and bring some more consistency to their play. But you said it, you can't work against yourself mentally and kind of expect there to be any sort of progress forward or for you to really sit strongly above 500. So this is a dance that we could be seeing for a minute here. We can count on Crochet, but they're gonna have to lock things up out west before coming home and moving on.
They need to do more than dance with it in these spots. And it's continue of after the Devers trade goes down and Craig Breslow comes out and says, not waving the white flag.
Yeah.
That's not happening with this team. We are still going in, we want to win, and we want to make moves at the deadline to upgrade it. The reports have come out to support that as well, but the players on the field have to show the front office why they should buy and how much they should buy in as well.
Yeah.
And it's just not been happening. Hey, if you ever want to call in, voice your opinion on the Red Sox, give us your takes, join the conversation, leave a voicemail, 617-790-0928. That's 617-790-0928. We got a voicemail right here. Steve, longtime Sox fan, that's how he put it. You can leave your name, where you're from, stay anonymous, whatever you want to do. But here's Steve, a longtime Red Sox fan.
Yeah, this is Steve, a longtime Red Sox fan since 1963. I really think they should send Roman Anthony back down. He's got 4 hits, 36 at-bats. He needs more seasoning, okay? Send him back down. Hopefully get things going. And I think they're wasting their time with him right now, okay? All right, bye.
There's a lot of guys that could be wasting their time with. Roman Anthony's not one of them. Hasn't even had 40 at-bats on the season. Had a hit last night, by the way, in that big first-inning rally. Him at the DH spot, coming up with a hit. Has hits in 3 of his last 4 games. But appreciate the call, Steve. That obviously coming in before last night's game even started. He's only played 13 games at the major league level.
Right.
He's played over 300 in the minors, and he's played plenty in the AAA level. He's done that, and he's just 21 years old.
Barely.
Just 21. Only playing 13 games so far, not even 40 at-bats under his belt, and they're wasting their time with him? No, this is a kid that has everything you want in his ceiling. Let him continue to grow, and let him develop by seeing major league pitching. That's what he needs right now to see as much and get as much exposure and experience in a major league batter's box, not down at the minor league level. Roman Anthony is a guy they need to keep up at the major leagues right now.
Yeah, you're only going to get the best out of him if he continues to get those reps at the major league level. And you mentioned it, he's got to be able to see these pitchers. Kind of some correlation to Christian Campbell. It was talked about the fact of how he was adjusting to the velocity in the major league level. Why would you want to knock a guy back down to AAA who's already seen all the action possible there, crushing it at that level, and just send him back to his comfort zone? No, he needs to figure out how to adjust up here. And we've actually seen Roman Anthony have the capability of making adjustments after having games that aren't really up to, let's just say, performance that we're looking at from him. So there's that on top of, while he's making these adjustments to the major league level, you're also talking about a guy that's kind of looking to do a lot. Is it left field? Is it right field? And every player has the buy-in, which you want to see, of whatever the Red Sox need, I will do. But that on top of a team as a whole that's trying to find its identity, it's just a lot of moving pieces that can take some time to smooth things out. So I say absolutely not to moving Roman Anthony back down. These are the reps that he needs. This is how we're going to help him find his best game. And once everybody kind of finds and solidifies their roles, it's just going to help the team as a whole.
This is also a team with like Wilyer Abreu now back. Ceddanne Rafael has been absolutely tremendous the last month and a half of the season.
Papelbon's MVP, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, I agree with Pap all the way on that. I mean, he's been fantastic. It's what he does in center field. He's the best defensive center fielder in baseball. But now his bat is following. It's consistent. It's timely. In the big moments, he gets the biggest hits. For whatever reason, he just loves thriving with the spotlight on him. He has locked into that. With Roman Anthony, turned 21 a month ago. Not a year ago, a month ago. He's going to be 21 this upcoming season. That's a guy that's learning at the major league level at a very young age. But he's been in the Red Sox development and their farm system going back some years now.
Yeah.
That's someone that's done it. With the Christian Campbell, they need to figure him out defensively. He needs to get his confidence back. The bat hasn't been there since the first month of baseball. AL Rookie of the Month was fantastic, and the bat disappeared. Roman Anthony, we haven't seen the great, but we don't know what his grade is yet. You need to see that at the major league level.
Yeah.
And this is a team, too. I mean, bases were juiced later in the game, and they come across without scoring anything. And it's just losing these opportunities where they need to support themselves and put themselves in position to win. Roman Anthony's not the issue with the Red Sox. It's the team as a whole. It's a lineup as a whole. That's what has to wake up for this team.
Yep. As they get closer to finding an identity, they'll get closer to finding consistency. So we'll ride the highs while they figure out the lows, and I'm totally on board with that. But Roman Anthony's right where he belongs, in my personal opinion.
Keep him at the major league level. We've seen him right field, left field, DH, wherever he finds comfortable. His bat is his strength. Get the most out of that. That's what the Red Sox need right now, along with a lot more others. Take another break here on Boston Has Entered the Chat. When we're back, we'll get into what's trending, including hearing from Tyrese Halliburton and Cal Raleigh with some pettiness in the MVP race between him and Aaron Judge. That will be on Boston Has Entered the Chat. Make sure to catch new episodes every Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 a.m. on NESN, 9 to 10 a.m. on NESN Nation. Boston Has Entered the Chat. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Boston Has Entered the Chat. George Balekji, Kasey Hudson. All right, Case, let's get into what's trending around sports. Hey, last night, as everyone's trying to piece together that Jrue Holiday trade, what the Celtics are doing. Also, first time hearing from Tyrese Halliburton since his ruptured Achilles injury that happened in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. And Tyrese Halliburton posting on X, going deep. I love the candidacy we heard from him. It was a very long post. Here was a part that jumped out to me. Halliburton writing on X, the frustration is unfathomable. I've worked my whole life to get to this moment, and this is how it ends. Makes no sense. Now that I've gotten surgery, I wish I could count the number of times people will tell me I'm going to come back stronger. What a cliche. This stuff sucks. My foot feels like dead weight, fam. But what's hurting most, I think, is my mind. Honestly, right now, torn Achilles and all, I don't regret it. I'd do it again and again after that. To fight for this city and my brothers, for the chance to do something special. Indy, I'm sorry. If any fan base doesn't deserve this, it's y'all. Love all of that from him. For him even saying enough of the comeback stronger. Like, this sucks. He wants to, in a way, just feel all the feelings.
Yeah.
Like, this sucks. I'm not shying away from it. I don't need the inspirational talk. I appreciate the support. But right now, I got to feel this.
Yeah.
I got to feel this pain physically and mentally, and then I'll be ready for that comeback stronger, that comeback that everyone's talking to him about.
Yeah, and I love the transparency even more because steering away from the cliches, like that's the easiest thing to try to lean on, right?
Yeah.
Because you know and you can anticipate what everyone's going to say and what you're supposed to be thinking. My favorite part of that actually was the I don't regret anything. Because if I'm being fully honest, as soon as the injury took place, even though everyone was trying to catch their breath, like, holy crap, did this really just happen? In the same breath, I'm thinking to myself, he's been working through an injury. You've got a calf strain. You've got things that play into bigger or more impactful injuries, which is exactly what we saw happen to him. So I'm sure he's processing a lot of emotions because he wasn't not going to be there for his team.
Yeah.
But was there a way to kind of, strategize differently or protect him from this? But you can't think what ifs. So that all just comes back to he's going to feel all the emotions. He's going to go through all the stages of grief. He's going to be able to come back stronger, even though he's not going on that cliche right now, because he's going to make sure that he doesn't have any moments where he feels like he negated any feelings that he had with all of this. And it comes back to just being there for the team, being there for the city, and I think that that's going to lead him back.
This is a guy that, if this is an injury in the regular season, he would have missed a month, give or take. Maybe less, maybe more. But he comes back, and it's in that spot. If he sat out with the calf strain, which he was battling through in Game 5, looked terrible in that, didn't have a single field goal from the floor, then after the game, Rick Carlisle's like, hey, he's battling through something.
Yeah.
Game 6, before that, leading up, there are the reports of the calf strain, and he looked so good in Game 6 that people are like, oh, it's a fake, and that was a cop-out, that was the excuse. But you see it happen right there, and he was coming out firing in Game 7. But it's 2019 KD all over again. Playing well, coming back from a calf strain, doing well in the postseason, in the NBA Finals, and then goes down just by a simple non-contact basketball move. What Tyrese Halliburton was doing was attacking the defender, pushing off with his right foot, which he's done a million times, and we see that rupture. It's all of this transparency that he shares, and it's that process of him getting back to it. And even the part of my foot feels like dead weight and posting that from the hospital bed. It's the openness we never really get from athletes in their injuries. It's all minor setback for a major comeback. The cliches that people say, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to attack this rehab. I'm excited for what the future holds and all of this. Everything happens for a reason. He's like, no, my foot's dead weight. I can't move it.
Yeah.
I'm really sad right now. I'm hurt, especially for my team and my city, because they know what was right there in front of them. Pushing it to 7, that's all you need. They were up 1.5, the Pacers. Imagine the anxiety of that crowd in Oklahoma City if Halliburton was playing and the Pacers were up 1. Like, everything was in their hand. I feel for him, and when that happens, I thought the same thing. I'm not the biggest Tyrese Halliburton fan. I'm a Tyrese Halliburton realist of where he stands in the overall ranking of players in the NBA, if he is or is not a number one on a championship team. But he was playing fantastic basketball, and the non-contact, the Achilles injury, likely done all of next season too. For that Pacers team's window, for Rick Carlisle, that's how I feel. I love that he shared everything he's feeling about his team and his city.
Yeah, I think it was clear that he was a big motor for this team, and not just because of the skills and his timely comebacks with the threes. It was just also kind of his perspective, and his teammates probably really rely on his realism and his honest approach to everything in his life. So not going into cliches, but being able to get this perspective of where his mental is at, it's going to mean that much more when he does get on the other side of it, because we're going to know and understand that it took him a minute to get himself into the mindset that's like, I got a bit of a road ahead, and I need to figure out how I'm going to do this best, not just for myself, but for this city. This
is a guy that was under-recruited out of high school in Wisconsin, under-scouted coming out of Iowa State, was really good with the Sacramento Kings. I think it's traded in a trade where I go, what is Sacramento doing? They get the Domantas Sabonis back, but I remember that trade going down, I'm thinking, they have a really good guard. What's happening? And then built this Pacers team up, built himself up too. Yeah. Going through maturity this past offseason after losing to the Celtics last playoff round, last year in that postseason run on their way to a title, and gets to this part. I really look forward to what he will be when he gets back. Basketball is worse when he's not in the league and healthy. All right, let's talk some pettiness now. Going to MLB. So Cal Raleigh now has 32 home runs on the season. First player in Major League Baseball this season hit the 30 home run milestone. And he hears all the MVP talk that Aaron Judge is getting, Shohei Ohtani's getting as he's pitching again. He said this, 31 homers hits different when you're doing it at T-Mobile. It's not the Bronx. I'm impacting the game on both sides, and yeah, I think that deserves MVP talk. T-Mobile Park, where the Seattle Mariners call home, is one of the hardest parks for hitters in Major League Baseball. How good their offense is with the Julio Rodriguez out in center field, with Cal Raleigh, the big dumper, right behind the dish and being a great catcher, it's really hard to be a hitter there. Love this direct shot at the Bronx, at New Yankee Stadium, at that short porch. Aaron Judge is phenomenal. He's a right-handed Barry Bonds. But I like this spice in an MVP race in Major League Baseball.
I love this spice, especially out of a catcher. And then for him to say, basically, I'm one of the most impactful guys on both sides. This is the kind of energy that you want to see, especially when you have the MLB app and every other notification is Cal, 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 Cal. I mean, it's worthy of it. And I'm glad that he's standing, well, what did we have Justin Bieber talking about? Standing on his business. And Cal is standing on his. But it's true. I mean, when Travis and I talked about the Red Sox heading out west and facing off with Seattle first, it was like, let's not jump to kind of underestimating what Seattle can present, because they do have the ability to be strong defensively. They do have the ability to have a totality with runs. So it's exciting to see him going for that challenge. And I mean, he's in the conversation of Barry Bonds, considering what he's done through 75 games. So
yeah, first player, 30 home runs in 75 games since Barry Bonds in 2001.
Yeah, that's a long time.
That might be pre-Juice Barry too. I forget if that's Barry's Pirates days or not, but that's a guy that, you know, was one of the most talented players in baseball. You know, had a little PEDs with him to help him get to that next threshold. But what Cal Raleigh's doing, and as a catcher too defensively, how stout he is, and how good this Mariners team has been. I love him taking that shot. I put it more on the Bronx. He's putting it on, like, not to take away from Aaron Judge, because he's amazing.
Right.
But this is a guy that's on pace for 60 homers, and he goes, I'm doing it at one of the hardest ballparks to hit in.
Yep.
There was the numbers I was reading. T-Mobile Park suppresses offenses by 11%. We know what the Rockies do at Coors Field, Mile High. That pushes and balloons offenses by 10%. T-Mobile Park in Seattle, 11%. They hold offenses under. We've seen it time and time again. We'll take another break here on Boston Has Entered the Chat. When we're back, we'll be talking Bruins developmental camp starting later this week. Who we'll see there? Hear from one of their assistant coaches as well. Casey will break it all down after the break. And as always, make sure to get the latest up-to-date live Boston sports headlines and everything trending around Boston sports and sports nationally on Boston Has Entered the Chat every Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 a.m. live on NESN, 9 to 10 a.m. live on NESN Nation. That's Boston Has Entered the Chat. Wherever you get your NESN programming, wherever you watch on YouTube as well, Boston Has Entered the Chat every Monday through Friday. Welcome back to Boston Has Entered the Chat. All right, let's talk some Bruins and their offseason. The next step for the Bees as they want to get back to being in the postseason, development camp. I know, not as exciting as everyone was thinking, but that's the first step. There's obviously the NHL draft going on at the end of the month, but development camp for the Bruins with the guys they know they have now, some drafted, some prospects, starts next Monday through Thursday. This is a camp that's important for a team that wants to reset their development system, their farm system, their prospects, where we will see guys like a Will Zellers, like a Dean Letourneau, like an Albin Boya skate for the Bees. This is an important part of, yes, the Bruins want to get back to the playoffs. They had to get younger, and they had to get better at developing prospects. So I'm really watching with this with a keen eye of what do they get out of this and who's going to be attending, Casey.
Absolutely. And you said the most important thing there. You can't steer away from the development. You can't do these long tracks anymore because the NHL is changing. We had north of 123 NHL debuts, injuries considered, but still, that's a lot of guys that were tapped with the responsibility of stepping up and making an impact for their team on certain lines, getting top 6 playing minutes. So you have to give more ability and more focus and more confidence to these younger guys. And on that note, we got our new assistant coach for the Boston Bruins, Steve Spott, and we know that he's more of a special teams specialist, if one would say. But outside of that, it was really cool. Sophia and I got to interview him on the Hockey Hub yesterday. And a few things that stood out to me was the fact that him and Marco Sturm, very synergistic in their approach and with their goals and what the identity is potentially going to look like for this Bruins team. Both guys talked about the emphasis of communication, and Steve Spott has an education background. He's an education major when he played hockey at Colgate, and what I love about his trajectory and his resume, he played college hockey, but he also was a head coach in the OHL, and we're seeing how these two worlds are about to collide coming up here shortly, which just puts a point of emphasis on making sure that young players are ready and confident and developed. And he even spoke to that because of everything that's going on, because of how the league is changing. You want to make sure that you are. He said that his teaching background helps him pull the best out of students, and that translates to pulling the best out of players. What's
big with Spot, too, is his experience. Spent 3 seasons with the Knights, then 3 seasons with the Dallas Stars before he was hired by the Bruins, leading a power play that over his last 3 years was 7th best in the NHL. Power play for the Bruins this past season was anemic, was non-existent. They didn't have anyone that could quarterback it, and it just was not generating points. Again, when it comes to the hockey, we could talk about what will be the style on the ice, what will be the approach by a Marco Sturm, what will be the overall scheme we'll see, and any changes at all, and who's going to make up the top 9. We also need to see this power play return. So for Steve Spott to have that be his calling card, but also as an assistant coach to be a guy that's, spearheading the development camp as well, that's something that it's one step before the next. Okay, who's an NHL player? Who are the guys we have drafted? Dean Letourneau, there's Andre Gasso, both those guys out of BC. There's a guy like Will Zellers, who is a part of their trade deadline acquisitions, who scored a ton of goals in the USHL in his age 18 season. Okay, can those guys also be ones that we develop when they're down with Providence or up at the Boston level or in college, wherever? Can they start contributing on the power play? I think that's what I'm looking forward to for Steve Spott as well. And something maybe we read coming out of this camp too.
Oh, 100%. And so kind of tracking back, because you mentioned system when we're talking about everything moving forward, and him coming from the Vegas Golden Knights, the time frame that he was there, that has to be looked at a little tighter, honestly, because you're talking about a team that got the identity and the reputation of being misfits. You were working with a blended roster. You weren't sure what you were working with, honestly. You had some big names going for you, but other names you had to find their best skill set. You kind of had to manifest the best out of them, and it worked out in favor. So he knows how to work with a blended roster. I asked him about that yesterday on the Hockey Hub, and that's exactly what this Bruins team is about to be. You've got a few leaders on here. You got a little bit of the core still intact, but there's still a lot of other questionable pieces that they have to now make work so that we can potentially see a postseason again. Something else that him and Marco Sturm are kind of lockstep about too is what this system is going to look like. The term hybrid came up from Steve Spott yesterday.
I love that.
I am a big fan of that.
Because that means you can adapt as the games go along. You can adapt as the matchups present themselves. And you can adapt in game as well. You give your guys options. A's not working, go to B. Hybrid also maybe like a car, doesn't mean gas or electric. Go option C if it runs off pure food grease. I don't care. Whatever works. I love hearing that.
Well, I was a big fan of hearing it because of everything you just said, but also previously on Boston Under the Chat, I told Bruins fans keep an eye out for if this defensive system changes. Hybrid defenses have been known to take teams to championships, and then both of these guys, Sturm and Spott, not only have been paying close attention to the Florida Panthers, but Spott specifically has a really close relationship with Paul Maurice. He's been advised by Paul Maurice throughout his career. So you're talking about two guys that are very open to the modernization of the NHL. So
Yeah.
that should make you hopeful for a number of things. And then you already touched on it, him kind of spearheading development camp. He's going to try to pick promising prospects to come in and make an impact on this roster. And there's a handful of guys that I think can do just that. Yeah. You look at Dean, he caught a lot of heat. We talked to James Murray about that. He said don't read too much into it. He thinks that Dean still has a lot to offer in the NHL. I mean, you got a lot of body that you got to work on and maneuver to be as special and skillful as one is hoping that you would be. But more importantly, the hybrid opportunities, the communication, the special teams ramping up. Spot even talked about getting this power play back to being a top 10 power play, already talking with Charlie McAvoy. So it's just a lot of things that shows you that they're starting to solidify what this identity needs to be, but they're doing it with moving into a new era.
This is also, it's cool to bring up, I think, Spot as someone that's mentored by Paul Maurice, where the Panthers have found a way to be really deep, really good, really consistent the last 3 seasons, because it's 3 straight Stanley Cup appearances and, of course, back-to-back Stanley Cup championships as well. But doing so with the Sergei Bobrovsky, who's an older goalie, but that's taking up $11.5 million of the payroll per year. And if you figure out how to bring out the most while paying your goalie a ton, but knowing how to play in front of him defensively and what puts him in a position to succeed, that's what the Bruins need when Jeremy Swayman's getting just over $8 million a year.
Yeah.
So whatever Spot can pull from Paul Maurice, whatever the Bruins can pull from the Florida Panthers, and I know Bees fans would hate to hear that, but it's winning hockey. And you know what? If you're back in the postseason, making deep runs and hoisting a cup, I don't care who you stole it from, as long as you know how to apply and succeed. I think that's important. And yes, we'll hear about, and people are wanting to hear, how is Dean Letourneau looking?
Yeah.
What is he doing? Because they know all the attention he gets. This was also a guy that was a freshman at Boston College this past season, but had to leave where he was playing junior hockey early and come to BC because they had more departures than they expected, being Greg Brown and his staff. They had more guys leave for the NHL than they expected, so they needed him to be that bottom center on that fourth line for them. And this is a kid that's still growing, still developing, still picking up his skills. It's really hard to do that in one of the toughest conferences to play developmental hockey in a way, junior hockey, away from college, or, you know, if it's a WHL, AHL, whatever it may be. The Hockey East is very competitive. You mentioned you spoke to James Murray. He's a college hockey expert. We have a part of your convo with him. Check it out right here. Here's James Murray from his convo on Hockey Hub with Sophia and Casey.
Yeah, no, Zeller's hell of a player. Anytime you can score 44 goals, and in my opinion, the best development league in the world in the USHL, it's stands alone. Like I think he had like 15 more goals than anyone else in the USHL or up there. I mean, he really showed his stride and how good he can be, and we'll see what he does here at North Dakota this upcoming season. I mean, his playmaking ability is unbelievable. So great shot, speed, and hands. I think if I'm a defender, I'm scared and he's going to attack you. So you got to have your head on a swivel for that kid, and he's shown what he can do at Green Bay this past season, USHL, and I think North Dakota, he's going to get tested, you know, at an NCHC, very tough conference as well. So he'll have some talent in there. I know North Dakota fans should be really excited. They will be excited to see him and watch him every Friday and Saturday in NODAC. So yeah, the sky's the limit for this guy, and very high ceiling. I think Bruins fans should be really excited about this kid.
Awesome conversation from James Murray. Check out the full convo. That was on Hockey Hub with Casey and Sophia. So he's talking about Will Zellers, currently 19 years old. We hear about the goals he was scoring, what he's alluding to. 44 goals in 52 games in the USHL this past season. This is also a kid that was playing for Shattuck St. Mary's since he was 16, scoring 69 goals. At the age of 16, at Shattuck St. Mary's, which is a branch off the U.S. National Development Team branch, right? It's a branch off of what Canada does as well. That's the reason Shattuck St. Mary's was created out in Minnesota. This is a kid that was a third-round pick in 2024, just 19. You want to go to a college team to develop. North Dakota State provides that. And as a center, 5'11", 180, he mentioned it, the speed, the skill he has. It's also his vision and IQ that jumps off the ice at many evaluators. That is all stuff that the Bruins offense was missing. So this is someone I'm excited to watch for. Like, my eyes are on a Will Zellers. I want to see him flourish and stand out amongst everyone else on the ice.
Well, yeah, because for starters, you want the trade to make sense. We got him during the Colorado acquisition, and then more importantly, highlight in bold what you said about vision and IQ. Some of the top things reported on Will Zellers is the fact that he has the ability to create space. Now, I know that I was really high up on a player by the name of Braden Point because he works very well in tight spaces and can create space. And you're talking about somebody that can help you hold on to the puck a little bit longer as you get things sorted and situated. So as he develops, that's great. Then add to it, defenders should be scared of this kid.
I loved hearing that. He puts them in conflict. He makes them, their eyes get wide, and then freeze up on the ice. That's what you need.
Yep, big time. And then just to add to all of that, and then kind of circling back to the Spot conversation, Spot has a big emphasis on individual skill set. And he was on a podcast for Coach's Corner talking about the keys to skating. So I have a friend whose husband plays in the NHL, and she's mentioned to me that, like, in certain countries, you don't touch a stick until you're a teenager. You skate, 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 skate. So when you become a promising skater, it's just going to help the rest of the things fall in line. So for Spot to have that kind of the development approach, for him to be spearheading development camp, to have a guy like Will Zellers who IQ, vision, and all these kids that they're going to try to make more promising skaters on top of that, that's just going to kind of level up when we can see them make an impact on a Bruins roster.
For what we saw the Bruins do at the trade deadline, because Will Zellers was part of the package, sent Charlie Coyle to the Avs. They got Casey Mittelstadt in return and Will Zellers. Mittelstadt, if he sticks, whether he's a center or a wing at 26 years old, is a good NHL player.
Yeah.
If Zellers can tap into his potential, and let's say hit 80% of his ceiling, that's a good to great NHL player. That's what I look for, because when that trade goes down, I go, that makes amazing sense. That makes so much sense. It's what they need. That's what Zellers brings to the ice. So that's someone I'm excited to watch and all that. And then you see the names. Again, when we talk the development camp, what the Bruins have done, even getting a look at a guy like Albin Boya, who played really well for the Maine Black Bears, they made a run making it to the national tournament, was one of the best college hockey goalies in the entire nation. Again, if you can get something from him, the Swedish goalie between the pipes, and someone, again, you think you could tap into and develop, and someone that was in their backyard, give them a look and see what you could do there. It's you look at the roster. I know it's just a development camp, and we want to watch the draft. We want to see in a free agency, but the Bruins are making the right steps here.
Yeah, and it's not just development camp, because it depends on when these guys are going to be called upon to help out, you know, because some of these kids are probably going to be closer to being ready than others. And when you look at the trade, I'm glad that you brought up Casey Mittelstadt, because a little bit of a theme here for a number of these guys that will be in development camp coming out of Minnesota.
Yeah.
Casey Mittelstadt training in Minnesota right now. Will Zellers training in Minnesota right now from Minnesota. And then just, I think Beckett Hendrickson is another name in development camp. He's University of Minnesota. So you're also looking at guys that have kind of the systematic similarities and where the development lines in, which just kind of bridges the gap on chemistry if the opportunity presents itself that they are playing with each other at any point for the Bruins. So you're finding a couple more connections that can help play out favorably as well. Another BC guy, Gasso.
Yeah, Andre Gasso, former 7th round pick.
Yeah, I know what Spot's going to be looking at from this kid. One-timer. What is his shot release going to be? Because when he talked about the individualization and skill sets on the power play in their interview with me and Sophia, he talked about kind of making sure that he's bringing the best out of each guy. So if they can be consistent and reliable when it comes to that one-timer, then they're going to want to press on from that. So you're looking at a number of guys that have specific roles that each coach is going to be like, all right, let's see where this can go.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Awesome breakdown by you, Case. Great interview. Check out the full one with James Murray, Steve Spott, wherever you get your podcast, The Hockey Hub. We'll be back on Boston's End of the Chat. Make sure every day, every Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on NESN, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on NESN Nation. Catch Boston Has Entered the Chat. Wherever you get your podcasts, also catch 3:10 to Left, The Hockey Hub for the full Bruins offseason. Hold my banner at Foxborough Rush, wherever you get your podcasts.